is just a blank car contract. You should be looking at a revision date of April 2010. That's the most current. By the way, this is going to change. As a matter of fact, I think it hits, maybe we should not do this class and we should wait another month because CAR is revising the contract, I think April of this year. So next month, we're going to have a new one. The reality is, it's not going to be that much different, and my class won't change all that much. Today we're gonna, since I started a little bit late, we will possibly go a little bit after 3 o'clock, but we're not going to do the 4 to 6 hour marathons that we've done before. To do this justice takes about 6 hours, so we'll get through page 1 and 2 maybe today, and then we'll go through from there. But let's try to make this as interactive as we possibly can. And at the same time, you know, just ask as many questions as you can. If I think you've kind of gone astray, then I will tell you to hold that question. What you got, Tom?
Was the one that you're talking about right now, was that a listing contract or was it a purchase contract?
Well, it ultimately, the problem started with both. But okay, let's start with the agent in the office who failed was the listing agent.
Okay.
Their original failure had to do with a couple things. Let me ask you a question as I'm getting this pulled up. You take a listing today. Do we have an obligation to give the seller a copy of the agreement that they just signed?
Yes.
Yes.
When do you have an obligation to give that to them?
Immediately.
Immediately.
At the time they sign it,
Yeah.
right? Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
If you don't do that, you violate that's why we always used to have multi-part carbonless copies. So when they sign stuff, you give them a copy. Has that become a little bit of a problem in the age of WIN forms? It's a little bit of a problem in the age of WIN forms. Now we don't have, I don't see any carbon copies on here. How am I supposed to get the people a copy? Okay. Well, you need to make an extra copy of it. Who sits down with their sellers anymore, their buyers, and sits across face to face to sign the contracts? Okay. If possible, that's best practice. Have we, a lot of us, gotten into the habit of doing everything over email? Mm-hmm. Email everything, right? God forbid, I'm going to actually have to sit down with somebody and sign this stuff. I'm struggling with my password, you guys.
Would it be okay if you gave them the contract ahead of time to say, hey, this is what we're going over, and then when
not only would it be okay, it's preferable.
So they'll have a blank something to go over, and then when we go over, when I get back to the office, I'll send it to you. Does that qualify, or is it not the same?
It does. It does. Hold on a second. Let me give you a better answer than that. Would you call and find out what my password is for forms?
2 copies,
Please.
yeah.
Well, yeah, if you're filling it out, then now you just changed everything.
This is the deal. And again, we could turn this, our contracts class could quickly turn into a listing presentation class. Let's talk generically. I'm going to sit down, and you and I are going to take a list. You're my seller, I'm your agent, and my intention is that you are going to sign a listing contract with me tonight. Okay? Or change hats. You're my buyer, and I'm going to sign a purchase contract, or you're going to sign a purchase contract with me tonight. In a perfect world, it'd be wonderful to get that information to you in advance. Okay? So on a listing side, it might be a little bit easier. Okay? Hey, I'm going to sit down with you and Marilyn this evening, and we're going to fill out this paperwork, and I just want to give you something to look at before I get here, and check your email. Do you email? You don't email. Okay, well, let me have my assistant drop it off prior to our appointment, and you're going to have everything that we're going to cover. You're going to have the market analysis, you're going to have the disclosures, you're going to have the listing agreement, the whole 9 yards, and I give it to you, and in theory, I give you an opportunity to digest it. You see what a professional I am. Oh my God, look at this package. I haven't even met with this guy yet, and he's just giving me just a... That's it? Mm-hmm. Is that a capital there?
Nope.
Look at you. So, at any rate, if you are a listing agent, and you want to be a good listing agent, I would suggest, because normally, I just don't knock on your door, Tom, and say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood and want to know if you might want to sell your house, and you don't normally say, you got me at the right time, come on in and let's do it, right? That's not normally how it works when you're taking a listing. Normally there's multiple contacts, and then finally we set the appointment. Okay, when's a good time? When are you and Mrs. Romo going to be home? Okay, great, we're going to be home on Tuesday, wonderful. So I might have hours or even days in advance to prepare it. Well, if I know I've got hours or days in advance to prepare, well, this isn't my first listing, right? Who's taken more than one listing in this class? Okay, good. So I've learned over time that I don't want to prepare for my listing appointment with you 20 minutes before I go. I'm getting all my paperwork ready, I'm getting it all done. Oh, damn, the printer's broken. Or my computer's failed. And now I got an appointment with you, which I've known about for 4 days, but because I didn't do it in advance, now I'm not prepared. So I know that, I've learned that lesson. So I have my entire package together. I've got my listing contract, I've got my agency, I've got my disclosures, I've already filled out a net sheet. Okay, my net sheet's done. All my disclosures are done. I got a nice Coldwell Banker binder. My listing presentation, maybe I have a PowerPoint that I use, Coldwell Banker PowerPoint, that says this is all the things that Tom Romo does to sell your house, and I'm the #1 guy, and look at Coldwell Banker, look at our advertising, and I got a YouTube video of Tom Selleck doing the commercial for Coldwell Banker. I got all that crap, right? Tom's techie. Tom likes email, so I say, Tom, check your email. Our appointment's tomorrow night at 2 o'clock, or tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I'm going to send you an email. Everything we're going to discuss is going to be in that email. Now, some of you might say, wait a minute, you really want to send them everything? That's up to you guys. If your sales skills say don't give them everything, just give them a piece, then fine. You do whatever your experience says. In my experience, I give you everything. Whole 9 yards. You want me to give a CMA to my seller that has a value? I think your house is worth $250. You want me to send that to him before I even meet with him? Because that's not traditional old school sales. Traditional old school sales is, what does the seller want to know? What's one of the things there's 2 things that sellers want to know when they meet with you to list their house. One of them is what? How much is my property worth? The second thing is, how much money am I going to walk away with? When do they normally want to know that? Immediately. So if you walk in the door, old school sales would be, if Tom says, I have a list, how long is my list? How long is your guys' average listing appointment? How long would you spend on it out with the seller? A couple hours. That's not bad. An hour would be, I think, a little short for me. 2 hours would probably be a little long for me, but I certainly could do a 2-hour listing presentation. Okay. Now, old school sales says that the very first thing Tom says is, well, Lance, just tell me what it's worth. My sales trainer would say, deflect that question. Hey, Tom, we're going to get to that in a little bit. Let me take a look at the house. We're going to sit down. I got a whole bunch of information I'd like to go with you. Yada, 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 yada. And I would, you deflect that. Do sellers realize that? They want just answer the damn question. What's it worth? I'm on the lot buying a car. How much is it? Well, do they ever tell you how much it is? Well, why don't you come into the office? Come on, let's sit down. I got this thing called the Foursquare. Everybody's been to a car deal with the Foursquare? Does that drive you mad? I bought a lot of cars. I've never once been able to have a salesman tell me, what can I buy this car for on the lot? I've never once had a salesman say, you can buy this car for $44,000. You want to buy it or not? Never. It's okay, come on, let's come in. Let me put you there. All right, same thing. I think this is realtors, car salespeople. Ask the public. Car salespeople have surpassed us in reputation amongst the public. Are you kidding me? Partially is because we're not giving them information as quickly and honestly as we can. So I'm way off topic because I want to get back to the contracts. But the bottom line is if I can get that information to you in advance, including what the list price I think is going to be, including what I think your net's going to be, I want to give it to you. I want you to have digested the agreement, whether it's the listing agreement or the purchase contract. So when I get there, which by the way, I'm going to have a completely fresh set, we're going to go through, we're going to do our thing. Hopefully we're going to sign on the line that is dotted. And then, do I have an extra copy to give you in my briefcase? Yes, because I'm prepared. If I don't have an extra copy because I'm not prepared, hopefully you've already got the one that I dropped off on your porch the day before. That's an identical copy. I'll tell you what, as long as we're at it, let's just sign both of these, okay? Have you guys ever sat anywhere and signed contracts where they had you sign originally copies for the exact same thing? Well, you can do that in real estate too. Perfectly fine to have your buyer sign 2 original copies. One copy is for you to keep, Mr. Buyer. One copy is for me to present to the listing agent. Okay, so at any rate, we're going to talk a little bit about this example. Let's just pull up a contract. Let's get rolling. We'll start to jump into my 20-minute little sidebar conference here with my with my agent. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up a copy of the contract, and we are going to, which by the way, I'm in WinForms for those of you watching at home. Hopefully that's centered properly. I didn't even check to see if our camera is looking good. It is. Yeah, that looks about as good as any. So I'm in WinForms. I would suggest to everybody, if you are not using WinForms to draft your contracts, start. Technically, printing out a blank WinForms contract, filling it out by hand, it's acceptable. I mean, you guys have heard the thing in real estate licensing school, you could write a contract on the back of a cocktail napkin, it's legally binding? Yes, it is. Is it the most professional way to do it? No, it's not. We are professionals, let's act like it, and when we are going to present a new contract to a listing agent, we want it to look like we know what we're doing. So, in my opinion, looking like we know what we're doing means we're going to use the RPA, Residential Purchase Agreement. Here it is, RPA. By the way, everybody understands the acronyms. Nothing more embarrassing than you're now under contract and you're talking to the other agent, and the other agent says, could you send me a copy of the RPA? You're like, huh? Send you what? What do you want? What's the RPA? What language are you speaking? So knowing what you're looking at always helps. Always helps just a little bit. My computer is desperate need to be replaced.
Yeah, right there.
It won't do that.
I'm just struggling. Why am I struggling so much here? Maybe it won't do that now. I just did
It won't
this.
do that. It's fixed now, so it won't do that. You have
It's
to,
fixed?
Yeah.
I think it's broken.
No, see those the
The
buttons on the top?
Top there, see the eye, the
No,
arrow?
no, no.
No, that one?
Which one?
Was there don't even work?
Look to the left. Keep going, keep
More
going,
left,
keep
more
going.
left.
Down a
Down a
little
little bit.
Yeah,
Right there.
right
That's
there.
what I just did.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, I just did that. Okay. All right. Okay, so at any rate, RPA, Residential Purchase Agreement. Okay, who's been in this business for more than a couple years? More than 10 years. Who remembers, what did we used to call this? The deposit receipt. You haven't been in this business that long, but Mom has. And you paid attention to the deposit receipt. If you have an agent that says, hey, shoot me over a copy of the deposit receipt, number one, they're telling you a couple things. They've been around for a little while. Because this has not been called a deposit receipt. Welcome. 20 push-ups.
20 push-ups.
I used to teach martial arts classes. If you showed up late, you did push-ups. You are
Oh,
30
yeah,
minutes
they-
late. Excuse me, you have to do 30
I was
push-ups.
saying, only 20? You're pretty
Yeah,
soft.
that's right. So, at any rate, if you have somebody say, send me over a copy of the deposit receipt, that means a couple things. Their older mentality. I've done that a couple times, talking to, yeah, send me the deposit receipt. To catch myself. This has not been called a deposit receipt for probably 10 years. Okay? Having said that, this is still a deposit receipt, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And what's a deposit receipt? Just hold that question, we're going to get to a little bit. So, this is also joint escrow instructions. Is that new? Let's say, is new defined as 10 years or less?
It's not.
It's really not new, okay? The contract, which by the way, I use the word contract a lot. Is this a contract? Okay, let's go back to some of our sales training. If I want to get Tom to sign a contract, do I call it a contract? No. Because when I say contract, that's scary. You always were told by your mom and dad, don't ever sign a contract, right? But will you sign an agreement?
Yes.
Of course you will sign an agreement. Or will you sign the paperwork? Of course you would. Would you just do me a favor and just put your initials right here on the agreement? What's an agreement? Okay. Just on paperwork. Let me just get you to sign on the paperwork here a little bit. Does that work for you? But as soon as I say, would you sign the contract, what happens? All the little bells go off, defense mechanisms go up, and of course your instincts say don't sign that. Okay? Well, guess what? This is 2013. Okay? We are not car salespeople. We are real estate professionals. I like calling this a contract because that's exactly what it is. And I don't want people to misunderstand the fact that this is a contract. And if it's going to scare Tom to sign a contract, then I don't want him to sign the damn thing. okay? So call it what it is, but again, you will, even this, we don't call it a contract. I'm on the board of directors at CAR, I'm on the Standard Reforms Committee, I've been on that committee for 20 years. You know how long I've been trying to get them to change that damn word? Call it purchase contract, okay? What do you call it a contract? It's scary. At any rate, so here we are, California Residential Purchase Agreement, RPA, and again, I know I'm talking really basic elementary stuff here, and joint escrow instructions. So, is it important that this property, or this contract or agreement is filled out properly? Yes, for two reasons. Number one, it is a contract, it is legally binding between your buyer and your seller, and also, it's your escrow instructions. Don't screw it up. In the old days, you would sign a contract between a buyer and seller. You would then give that contract to the escrow company. And what would the escrow company do? They would retype it. They would retype everything on here, and they would issue escrow instructions. Okay, now, some escrow companies still do that. And the reason they still do that is because they don't trust us to fill out the paperwork properly. Okay? But if we have filled out the paperwork properly, the escrow company says, why should we interpret the documents that the buyer and seller have already agreed to? Because this is what they've already agreed to. All right? All the more reason we got to fill it out properly. We can't guess. We can't just, oh, geez, I really don't know that, but I know Lance says something about it in the contract, so I'm just going to leave that blank. We'll figure that part out later. Oops, going to be a little bit of a problem. Okay, so here we are. With our California RPA joint escrow instructions, the very first thing that you get to fill out is a date. Is the date important?
Yes.
Did you expect for me to take 20 minutes and talk about the dates when you came signed up for this class? Probably not. Could I talk for 20 minutes about the date? I could. I won't, but I could. Okay? Everything in this contract revolves around a certain trigger in time, which is triggered off of this date. First of all, very important, if I'm going to sit down, Tom, you're going to be my example today. If I'm going to sit down with Tom, which is now called Charles, if I'm going to sit down with Charles, and I expect you as my buyer to sign a purchase agreement or purchase contract today, I want the date of this contract to be what? Today. So if you do get in the habit of saying, hey, guess what? I know we're not going to be able to meet until Saturday. I'm going to type up all the paperwork in advance, contract. I'm going to email it to you. I'm going to leave a couple things blank. I'm going to leave some dates blank. I'm going to leave the price blank, a couple other things we haven't talked about. But 95% of it's going to be filled out. Just want you to take a look at it, and when we get together on Saturday, all we got to do is, fill in a date, fill in a price, and sign it. Good to go. Good with that? Great. Now, what I've seen happen a lot is agents do that, which is a good thing, that they'll put in the date of today. They'll meet with Tom and his wife on Saturday, and then what date do you sign the contract? Well, it's different. It's a different date than what's on the contract. You're going to cause yourself some heartburn, okay? So, whenever possible, which is all the time, make the date of the contract the date that they sign it, okay? Now, it doesn't necessarily make it invalid. If the date on page 1 is today and this contract sign date on page 8 is 2 days later, it's still a valid contract. But you're potentially going to cause yourself some problems and confusion when people start counting dates. When are we going to close? How many days do we have on inspection windows? The seller is counting from one date, you're counting from another date, and now all of a sudden you're in a fight over when did the 17 days start? Did the 17 days start from this date, or did the 17 days start from when Tom signed it? What's the answer to the question?
The
date he signed it. But do you want to have that argument?
No.
You don't want to have that argument, even if you're right, and you would be right. Well, geez, I know it says this date, but he signed it 5 days later, so we didn't start until 5 days later, which that may not even be true, because the seller might not have signed it until 5 days after that, right?
Right.
So then when does our 17 days start?
5 days after that.
The day the seller signed it, 5 days after that. But again, clean contracts help. So the date they're going to sign it is when they want to do it. Page 1, paragraph 1, item A. Charles Bentley. Is your name Charles Bentley? What's your name?
So.
Today you're Charles.
Email me. I'm Charles
Today you're
Charles.
Charles A. Are you Charles A? Is that how you want to hold title, Charles A? Are you really Charles A? What's the A for? That's for, no, A is for Adamant. What?
Andrew.
No, it's for Adamant. Adamant? What the hell is that? That's a little nickname my parents gave me. It's stuck. Is that your legal name? Well, no, my middle initial really is T for Thomas. Well, what the hell's this A? I just stuck with me. You know, they called me Charles Adamant Bentley, and I've just used that middle initial forever. Are you legally middle initial A? No. Okay. If Charles A. Bentley, Adam Bentley, is your real name, and that's how you want to hold title, that's what we put up here. Don't come to me later and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said middle initial A, I want it to be Adam. I want to spell it out. Okay? Spell it out. Are you a junior? Are you a senior? Are you this? Is there a difference between Charles Bentley Jr. and Charles Bentley II? Yes. There's a difference. And if you're a junior or you're the second, you know the difference. Okay? We got to get that in there. Is your wife holding title? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. I talked to Brad. Brad said there might be a little problem with my wife's credit, and maybe I need to go by my own. Really? Okay. Are you sure about that? Yeah. Let's get Brad on the phone. Let's make sure you understand what he told you. You're really going to be holding title by yourself, independent of your wife? Is that really what Brad intended to say? Because you might have misunderstood him. He might have said the exact opposite. He might have said, well, geez, your wife's credit is a little beat up, but because of the relationship, we need her income, and we're just going to have to deal with it, and we're going to throw it in there, and she has to. You can't qualify on your own. So you've got to use both of you, even though we got a little problem here to deal with. Same thing with your wife. Who is she? What's her middle name? Is she a junior? Is she a senior? Is she hyphenated? Is she a Romo Bentley? How does she do Romo Bentley? Is it Romo Bentley? Is it Romo Dash Bentley? Is it, I don't know. Is this important?
Yes.
Yes. If you make a mistake, is this correctable? Sometimes. I'll give you real life examples with REO properties. We have had Charles Bentley write an offer on a property and get the offer accepted by Fannie Mae. Then 3 days, 4 days later, and whether this is fair or this sounds like the right thing to do, just check your logic at the door for a moment. Okay? 3 days later, Charles' agent calls me and says, oh, we need to add Mrs. Bentley. Or Charles forgot to tell me in middle initial A for Adam. We need to modify that. Okay, now under normal circumstances, under normal world, that wouldn't, it'd be an inconvenience. God, are you really? God, I gotta draw a memo, I gotta get it signed, really? But you get it done, you go about your business, everything's fine. Sent these real life stories. By the way, nothing I'm going to say today is made up. Everything I'm telling you is from real life experience. Sent the offer into the bank says, oh, okay. How many other offers have we had on this property? It looks like we had 17 offers when we accepted Charles's offer the first time. Pretty hot property. Anything else going on, Lance, since this has come up? Well, yeah, geez, I got actually 6 more. Anything better than what Charles sent in? Well, yeah, as a matter of fact. Great. Tell Charles to come back with highest and best. We're going to reopen the offer round and we're going to take a look at new offers. Does that sound fair? Does that sound, no, it doesn't sound fair to me. I got a yes out of you, but I was looking for a no. It happens all the time. Now, and you know whose fault that is? That's Charles' agent's fault. That's Sally Snowflake's fault because she didn't fill out the darn paperwork right. And we can argue that we're blue in the face whether the asset manager is being reasonable and whether they're treating Charles and his wife properly or not. It doesn't matter. That happens. That happens all the time. Let me give you a little different scenario. Let's replace Charles. Charles Bentley is not a person. Charles Bentley is an entity. You are an LLC, you are a corporation, you are whatever you happen to be. Tom is the president of the Charles Bentley Group, Incorporated, LLC, whatever it happens to be. It's amazing how many people who are the president of a corporation do not know the name of their incorporation, of their corporation. What's the name of your, oh, we're the Charles Bentley Group, Inc. Okay, okay. Let me get this right. Charles Bentley Group, is that comma? INC period? Or is that no comma, incorporated? Does it make a difference?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely makes a difference. Now, partially, let's forget about what I just said about Fannie Mae. let's just suppose Charles Bentley, comma, Inc. We now get into escrow. Escrow's drafted all the paperwork, everything's good. Prior to close of escrow, a title company's going to want to see some documents, right? What are they going to want to see? Corporate documents, you know, articles of incorporation, resolution, signing off. Are you the authorized party? By the way, has anybody had an experience where you're dealing with Tom the entire time? He signed all the paperwork, the name of the corporation is right, you get ready to, you know, close escrow, title opens up, gets the document, they find out, dude, you're not even the authorized signer.
Not the officer.
You're not the author. You're not the authorized officer to sign. Who's Sally? Oh shit! Really? Yeah, go get her. Geez, Sally's gone. She's gone. She's an officer and director of the corporation with the authority to sign. You better go get her. Okay? Now, granted, bigger corporations don't normally have these type of problems, but you know, small family mom and pops, you know, you opened a corporation 10 years ago, you think you know what you're doing. But all that stuff's important, and you got to get it right. Even if you make a mistake, easily fixed, but you do not want to be the agent representing Charles Bentley Incorporated, getting ready to close escrow tomorrow. And again, this would be a bad timing. There's a whole bunch of people, if this scenario happened, I'd blame me, I'd blame escrow, I'd blame title, probably a couple other pretty people in there I'd blame. Let's suppose I'm getting ready to close tomorrow, and my escrow officer calls and says, oh, we did the recording on Wembley Circle got pulled because we got to modify the grant deed. What do you mean? It's not Charles Bentley, comma, INC, period. It's Charles Bentley, no comma, Incorporated spelled out. That's the legal name of your corporation. There's a difference, okay? So get that stuff straightened out. If you are basically going to write offers for corporations, ask them in advance. Hey Tom, I know we're going to sit down on Saturday, and you've told me that you have an investment company that you used to buy and sell properties and flip. Get me a copy of your articles of incorporation. Now, if I'm talking to Tom, and he looks at me like, huh? Red flag. Red flag. Especially if he's told me he's bought and sold a bunch of properties under his corporation. Because if he really has bought and sold a bunch of properties under his corporation, me asking him for his articles of incorporation not only is going to send a signal to him that I know what the hell I'm talking about, he's going to fully expect it. He says, oh yeah, I got it. I got the whole file. I got the bylaws, I got the articles, I got the most recent minutes, I've got the signing authority that says that I'm the authorized signer. Unless I have all that stuff. Now, has my confidence level just increased with my buyer? If my buyer literally looks at me like, blah, I'm not confident. I have no confidence in you. Especially, I'll probably call you out. I'll probably call you out. I think I mentioned this in the net sheet class last week. The older I get, the little less sensitive I become to people's feelings. Okay, I think the story I told last week is I take a listing, I go in and there's cat poop and just smells terrible all over the place. And the old days I'd go in and, oh geez, let's get the listing, and boy, you know, I got a good name of a carpet cleaner, let me get you this just so you know, get thing on stage. Now I go in, I'm like, Tom, what are you going to do about this? What are you talking about? This. There's that, actually that right there. What are you talking? You mean the cat poop on the floor? Yeah, that. Not just the poop on the floor, the whole house. I can't sell this. I certainly can't sell it for this. If you want to take this and sell it as is, that's fine, but why would you do that? And I apologize, but your house smells like cat pee. And there's literally poop on the carpeting that you haven't picked up, it looks like in 6 months. What are you going to do about that? So, you know, a little bit in your face. Getting back to our corporate documents situation, if Tom has told me to my face that he bought and sold 6 properties this year through your corporation, and then I ask him for articles of incorporation, I'm calling bullshit. And dude, you know, I love you and I want to work with you, but you just told me you bought 6 properties since January 1 through Charles Bentley Incorporated. I'm the first person to ask you for articles of incorporation. You're looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. By the way, let me explain to you how I get paid. Okay? I don't get paid unless we successfully close this transaction. I've been doing this for a little while. Now, some of you can't say that necessarily, but project confidence. You know what you're talking about. I've done this long enough to know that a red flag just went up the pole. Okay, Robert, a red flag just went up the pole. You should know what I'm talking about when I say articles of incorporation. Be honest with me. You know, I know people, we tend to puff our resume a little bit. Have you really closed 6 deals? Were those your dad's deals? I mean, I don't know. But I would much rather have that confrontational meeting today, and actually maybe even get fired. Maybe if you walk, how dare you question me, than spend the next 3 months, or even 3 days, or 3 weeks finding out that you're full of baloney, because you don't have those documents. Okay, so here we are, line 1. This offer is from know who your buyer is. That's the rule. That's the lesson here. Know who your buyer is, okay? Got it? Let's pretend this is a listing agreement. Know who your seller is. Just because I'm in front of Mr. and Mrs. Seller, don't assume that Mr. and Mrs. Seller are the only people on title, or the people on title. Can I trust my property profile? Page 1 of my property profile says, John Seller, Sally Seller. There's John, there's Sally. Looks like I'm good. Well, can you fit 3 names on page 1 of a property profile? Not more, normally you can't. Well, now you find out Sally's mom is on title. Sally's mom is dead. They don't have the proper documentation to deal with her death. At a minimum, we've delayed our escrow. Maybe killed it, okay? So you need to know it. Now, if you get a full profile and it's got a copy of the most recent deed, in theory, can you trust that? The deed said, this is why you want to get this information in advance. I want to know. Hey, John and Sally, Tom, I've been talking to you for the whole time. And I met Sally once on the porch, and I pulled up the profile before I made it, and I see there's 3 other people on here. Well, who are those people? Oh, that's my mom and dad and Sally's brother's sister's cousin. Well, you know they're on title. How many people? I got 5 people who own the house. How many need to sign to list the house for sale? 1. 1 to list, 5 to sell. Okay? So I got 5 owners on title. I can sit down with Tom. Tom can list the property, and frankly, Tom can obligate himself to pay me a commission. Okay? But Tom cannot sell the property without the other 4 signatures. Yeah.
If you have 5 buyers and only one is allowed to put it on the market, so the others don't agree.
5 sellers.
5 sellers, okay.
Yeah.
The others don't agree to it, putting it on the market.
Right.
Then he's in trouble, or we're in trouble.
He's contractually obligated potentially to pay me. I've wasted my time. At the end of the day, by the way, how do we get paid? We get paid at close of escrow. I don't get paid by running around suing sellers for commissions. I don't want to. Is that what I want to do? I don't want to run around and sue Tom because I was an idiot and didn't find out that there was 4 other people on title. That is not a good use of our time. Okay. Having said that, if he signs as the seller, I can legally put the. Let's do a more realistic scenario. It's Tom and Sally. Okay. Sally is away for the weekend. Wife. Sit down with Tom. Hey, Tom. Then work. You and Sally are on title. You guys, you want to get this going right away. Yeah, I believe him. I trust him. Everything's good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign the listing today, just with you. Ideally, I need to get Sally, just so you understand. And I don't mean to, probe. But everything's cool with you and Sally, right? Sally wants to sell the house, right? Because if there's any daylight between you and Sally on the decision to sell this house, we're wasting our time, because you can sign the listing agreement that helps me get the property going, but if Sally's not willing to sign this, we're wasting our time. Oh, well, Lance, I wasn't exactly honest with you. I don't know, she's at her attorney's office right now. Really? Yeah, because she really doesn't want to sell. She wants me to buy her out, and she wants to stay. Like, okay, that's a little different situation. But let's suppose the situation is a little more common, and a little more common meaning that Sally is just away from the weekend. Tom signs, everything's fine. We get an offer in, Tom signs as the seller, and Sally signs as the seller, everything's happy. Okay? So, again, know who your clients are. Know what your address is. Spell it out. Is it Wembley? One thing I've realized, I've been working with a lot of buyers lately, it's amazing how many different Wembleys there are in the same city. Wembley Court, Wembley Circle, Wembley Drive, Wembley, really? In Menifee, you've got 3 different Wembleys? So know what you're selling, get your address down there, spell it out properly, don't abbreviate circles, spell it out, get the zip code correct. Address is pretty straightforward. Take the time, by the way, this is just auto-populated, so there's some information filled out on here, but 99% of this contract is blank. Get the assessor's parcel number, run a profile, you don't even have to get a profile anymore, you can just pull it right up on Realist Tax through the MLS. Make sure everything jives, assessor parcel number 12345, whatever it happens to be. Properties in the city of Menifee, properties in the county of Riverside, fill it out, put it in, okay? Purchase price. Again, we do a completely separate class on offer negotiations and offer presentation, so I'm not gonna go through how we decide to offer $250 or whatever it happens to be.